Namaste everyone. So tonight I want to read Book 5, Chapter 34 on the methods of the worship of the Devi. Om Vakratunna Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirviganam Kurumideva Sarvakaya Sushabla Om Ekadantaya Vidmim Vakratundaya Dimi Tanutanti Prachodayat Om Gam Ganapaten Om Gam Ganapaten Om Gam Ganapaten Namah Om Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Vidyarapinna Sanshta Namastasya 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 Namo Om Hamsam Saivini Paramam Satimatan Hamsa Prachodayat Hari Om Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasme Shri Guruve Nama Hari Om Tat Sat Hari Om. The king said, O Bhagavan, kindly narrate to me in detail now the methods how to serve and worship the goddess and the mantrams that are used on such occasions. The Rishi said, O king, I am now describing the method how to worship the goddess. Hear this. Leads to the fulfillment of all desires, to the liberation from one's bondage to self-realization, and to the destruction of all miseries. The worshipper has to perform his bath, then putting on a white cloth, he will have to perform his Vedic and Tantric Sandhya. Then he should, with his heart controlled, perform his Achmana ceremony and select a good auspicious site for his own puja purposes. Next, he should plaster the site with cow dung and spread his sacred carpet, asana, whereon he is to take his seat with a cheerful mind and sip water for Achmana 3 times. Then he is to collect the articles for worship according to his best capacity and place them duly in their respective positions. He is to perform pranayam, regulate his breath, and then follow the Bhuta Suddhi, the purification of the old and the formation of the celestial body, and Jiva Suddhi, by which the sadhaka becomes the Devata Maya. He then proceeds to Matrika Nyasa, i.e., setting mentally in their several places in the 6 chakras, and then externally by physical action the letters of the alphabet which form the different parts of the body of the Devata. He then places his hand on the different parts of his body, uttering distinctly at the same time the appropriate matrika for that part. Bhuta Suddhi, dissolve earth into water, water into fire, fire into air, and air into ether, ether into ahamkara, ahamkara into mahat, and mahat into prakriti, the final cause. This process is called Bhuta Suddhi. He is to mention then the time, date, tithi, and month of the year and make his sankalpa. Then he will have to assign to the different parts of his body the matrika mantrams duly as well as his own mantra. Next, he is to meditate in his own body the seat of the different devatas and do the internal worship. He is to breathe life into the deity outside to be worshipped as well as within himself to be meditated and worshipped. Then he is to do the same with the articles for worship and purify them by sprinkling with water an astra or bhat mantram, thus removing all sources of obstacles that are likely to interfere with the act. Next, on an auspicious copper plate, he is to draw inside a 6-angle hexagonal figure, 2 triangles crossing each other with their vertices, one upward and the other below, with white sandal paste or with 8 perfume things, and outside this figure an octagonal figure of 8 petals, outside this, he is to draw the boundary lines that is called the Pupura. On each of the 8 petals, he is to write each letter of the 9-lettered Vija seed mantram and the 9th letter in the central ovum. Next, by the mantram by which breath is infused, or by the Vedic mantram, he will have to place the yantra in the proper position and then worship the Ahadhara Shakti, the vital force in the central ovum and the holy seat with the Pita mantrams. He will have to invoke the Devi, uttering the seed mantram over a golden plate or figure, and carefully worship her by offering seeds and other articles duly as enunciated in the Yamala Tantras. Example, then he will have, etc. Then he will have to perform the 6-fold worship of the Ganas in the 6 angles and worship Indra, etc. and Vajra and others in the Pupura, the boundary, and thus finish the puja of the yantra. For the puja, see the Prapancha Sara. Note, Pupura is what is taught over, outside, front, or in the beginning. Here the Gana Devatas are first thought over and worshipped. Worship outside, worship inside, and see the deity in and out, everywhere, and be free is the motto of the worship. In the absence of the yantra, one will have to make a metalled image of Bhagavati and worship her with the greatest caution, with the mantras as expounded by Siva in the tantrams of Jamala and others. Note, yantra is that which restrains. This human body is the yantra, and its imitation is placed outside in various shapes and figures. The yantra is the mystical diagram used by the devotees for worship. Or one may use the Vedic mantrams in worshipping the deity in accordance with the prescribed rules and with his mind controlled, then merged in meditation. One is to mutter silently, perform the japam of the 9-lettered mantram. The mantram is Kreem Dakshini Kalike Swaha. Japam, muttering or repeating silently the mantram, is of 2 kinds: Nitya, daily, Poras, Charanik, repetition of the name of the deity accompanied with burnt offerings. In the Nitya Japam, Nitya homas are performed, and in the occasional Poras Charanik Japam, 1/10 of this is offered. Abhisheka too is 1/10 of this homa. Tarpanam is 1/10 of Abhisheka, and the feeding of the Brahmanas is 1/10 of what is done in the Tarpanam. O King, thus completing the Japam, one is to read daily the Chandi, to do the Chandipata, where the three glorious deeds of the Devi are narrated. Next, he will have to allow the deity invoked to depart to her own place. The Navarata Vrata, 9-night vow, is next to be observed according to the proper rites and ceremonies. Hrim Mahesa Mardinaye Swaha is the mantra. In the bright fortnight of the month of Asvin or Chaitra, is to be observed the fasting of the Navarata by those who desire for their own welfare. Homa are to be offered, many in number, and mantrams are to be recited, the same as in one's own mantram. Good piyasam with sugar, ghee, and honey mix is to be offered in this ceremony. Goat meat or holy leaves of the bale tree or red karavir flowers or till sesamum seeds mixed with honey can be used instead in the Homa ceremony. The special days for the worship of the Devi are the 8th, 9th, or 14th day, Titi, of the half moon. The feeding of the Brahmins must be done on each occasion. O king, thus the poor become wealthy. The disease get cured, and the persons that have no issue get obedient and well qualified sons. The king, expelled from his kingdom, gets back by the grace of Mahamaya dominion over the whole earth and becomes able to destroy all those enemies of his by whom he was before vanquished. When he worships the Devi, the persons desirous of learning get undoubtedly the learning honorable and auspicious. Provided he worships the Devi with his senses restrained, persons of all castes, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Sudras can become masters of all pleasures and happiness, provided they worship with devotion the Devi, the preserver of the world, the Jagadatri. A man or woman whoever performs the Navratra vow, always full of devotion, gets all the desired fruits. Whoever celebrates the holy Navratra ceremony in the bright fortnight of the month of Asvin with his heart full of the thought of the Devi gets all his desired fruits. O king, now I am describing the rites and ceremonies. Here, a square raised platform or altar is to be made. According to the prescribed rules, a water jar is then to be placed on it with the Vedic mantrams and due rites and ceremonies. One will have to make a beautiful yantra according to the previous laid rules, and the water jar is to be placed on it. Then spread the beautiful yava grains all around the jar. An awning or pandal is to be erected over the altar, and the place of worship and the site is to be decorated with flowers, lights, and dhupas. Incense and perfumes are then to be used in the hall of the Chandika Devi. O king, the Devi is to be worshipped thrice, morning, midday, and evening. No miserliness is to be shown in spreading wealth for this purpose. Light dhup, good presents of rice and other edibles, flowers and fruits of various kinds are to be offered to this worship of the Devi. The chanting of the hymns of the Vedas, songs and music with the various instruments are to be done, and a grand festivity is to be made. Moreover, note this carefully, that virgins are to be worshipped duly with sandal, ornaments, clothing, various edibles, sweet-scented oil, and beautiful garlands. This worship of the virgins is one of the essentials. Thus, completing the worship of the Devi, Homa is to be done duly with mantrams and other necessary articles on the 8th or the 9th Titi. Lastly, the Brahmins are to be fed duly. Then the worshipper is to take his first meal after fasting, i.e. make paranam on the 10th day. Then presents and various articles are to be offered to the Brahmin according to one's might and with devotion. O king, any man or any chaste married woman or chaste widow, whoever performs thus the Navaratra Vrat, gets in this world all the desired fruits and enjoys all sorts of enjoyments and gets unbounded happiness. and after death goes to the highest place. And if, owing to some cause or other, he has to take his birth again in this world, he would be born in an excellent family and would become endowed with good conduct and qualifications and get the unflinching devotion towards the Ambika Devi. O king, I have thus described to you the rules of the Navaratra ceremony. This vow is the best of all. Highest and the greatest pleasures and happiness are obtained in worshipping thus the auspicious Mahamaya. O king, better worship Chandika duly according to the prescribed rules. Then you would be able, by her grace, to conquer all your enemies, and you will regain your excellent dominion, unshaken by any, and you will get again the highest pleasure and happiness when you will be reunited with your wife and sons in your own palace. There is no doubt in this. O Vaisya, you too better worship the same Mahamaya, the goddess of the universe, worshipping whom leads to the fruitification of all desires. You will then be able to regain all your worldly pleasures in your own home and be respected by your relatives and acquaintances, and finally, after your death, you will go to the holy abode of the Devi. There is no doubt in this. Those that do not worship the Devi go to the Naraka or hell. Moreover, they suffer much from various diseases in this world. And those that do not worship the Devi are always defeated by their enemies, are void of wife and sons, become stupid and suffer pains from their unsatisfied desires. And those that worship the preservics of this world with the bay leaves, Karavira flowers, Satapatra and Champaka flowers, that blessed man, devoted to the Devi, gets filled with all sorts of enjoyments. O king, what more can I say than this, that those who have worshipped the Devi Bhavani with the mantrams approved by the Nigama Sastras, those very persons get honored in this world and are filled with all sorts of power and wealth. Verily, they stand foremost in the rank of best men, becoming the only repositories of all the best qualities in this world. Here ends the 34th chapter of the 5th book on the methods of the worship of the Devi in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, the Maha Puranam of 18,000 verses by Maharishi Vedvyas. Om Jayanti Mangalakali Padrakali Kapali Durga Kashima Shivadatri Swaha Swatha Namasute. Om Tumeva Mata Chapita Tumeva Tumeva Bandusha Chasaka Tumeva Vidya Dravinam Tumeva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.